It's embarrassing the first time you use a soup run. You're just standing there with people driving past who might know you. But after a few times, you just get used to it. I was told a hostel was my only option. There was no mention of there being a duty to house me at all. They just said, take it or leave it.
I first became homeless when I was 15. At 16, I was put in a bedsit by social services and left to it. I had no idea of what to do. Then I spent the next 15 years living in hostels and sofa surfing.
I was quite naive when I went into the hostel. I thought I'd be getting help because they made it sound all singing and all dancing, but the reality was very different.
When I was a kid, authority figures would be much rougher than they are now, and you just had to learn to stick up for yourself. I was defensive all the time, you had to be, because of the stresses of the system. It's hard to live in these overcrowded places. There's always the potential of something volatile kicking off.
When I was a kid, I was always in special schools, and I got bullied a lot there. The only good thing about it was when they put me on the way to work scheme and I got into carpentry. I was really good at it, but my strengths were completely ignored by the hostel. It always seemed to be about what you couldn't do rather than what you could. I don't really know what a normal life is, and the support I got from the hostel didn't feel like it helped at all.
Some staff abused their power. It was my way or the highway, and this was a problem because I've always had a problem with authority.
The worst thing about being homeless was the impact it had on my kids, and I think it's going to be an ongoing thing. They knew that no one was helping us, that I was doing everything I could, that I was doing my best, but none of us got the help we needed. I don't want them to resent me for having to stay in that situation as long as we did.
The second hostel was quite different from the first. I remember one time, another resident chased a staff member around with a knife and smashed the place up. We had to pay our service charge in cash and would get a little receipt, but it turned out the manager was simply pocketing it all. My key worker there acted like two different people. When my mum came to a key worker appointment because she was worried about me, the key worker couldn't have been any more helpful. But the rest of the time, I was just left to it. To a hostel, it seems to me like you are just a cash cow. The longer they keep you there, the longer they can keep the money rolling in from housing benefit. They want to keep you there rather than help you move on quickly.
Then a guy at the council got me into the council's rent deposit scheme, private rented flats that the council could help you get. It was the first time I've been proud of my home and I felt settled. You could never be proud of your place in a hostel. The only problem I've had since living in my own flat was that there was a lot of antisocial behaviour in the block. Initially, when we told the council about the antisocial behaviour, we were dismissed. I think because of how we were perceived. It was just put down to my partner's paranoia, which was gutting. Or they just told us to tell the police, but that can do more harm than good.
I know people try their luck, but sometimes housing officers seem to tar everyone with the same brush, and so their default position was just not to trust you. But we really were in need, and we didn't get anything, and they just sent us back to that situation. Not being believed was awful, absolutely awful. How do you prove to someone what's happening without them coming and seeing for themselves? When you're going through it and it's horrendous and your children are going through it as well, I still can't believe that no one took any notice. The council should listen more and take more notice of what people are saying about their situation and investigating if they have to.
After the manager was eventually caught for stealing, he was sacked, and the new manager seemed to want to evict all the existing residents for silly reasons so he could start from scratch. So I ended up sleeping rough again. My mental health worker got me back in contact with the council, and this time I was placed in temporary accommodation. There was no support whatsoever, and the security guard never seemed to be there. I managed to keep myself to myself, but it was stressful.
I've said it to a lot of people that without just us, I'm not sure where we'd be without your help. I'm so grateful that John said the things were wrong when they were wrong. The relief that afternoon of getting out of where we were staying and into a temporary accommodation, knowing we never have to go back there, we don't have to be in that situation anymore, it was lovely. It gave us the opportunity to get out of the situation.
The council moved us again, and we've had no issues at all in our new place, and our housing officer at the council has been amazing. But as I say, the hostel sector told me I couldn't manage my own home, and yet here I am more than 10 years later.
I didn't consider myself homeless, but really I should have. I was kind of blinded by it. It's not as simple as it seems. To think that I was still considered as homeless when I was working, and before that when I was doing a college course but had to stop. I just couldn't win whilst we were homeless.
I wonder how my life would have gone if I'd just been housed by the council 3 years ago.